Wind here. So in today's video, I'm going to do a ServiceNow tutorial for beginners in under 10 minutes. So have you ever wondered how large companies manage thousands of IT issues, employee requests, and workflows efficiently? Well, one of the most popular platforms used by the enterprises worldwide is ServiceNow. In today's video, I'll walk you through a complete beginner introduction to ServiceNow, including what it is, how it works, and a quick demo of the interface, all in just 10 minutes. So if you're new to ServiceNow or planning a career in it, this video is for you. Essentially here you can see the service portal. This is what we call the front end. Let's talk about what is ServiceNow. ServiceNow is a cloud-based platform that helps organizations manage digital workflows widely used for IT service management, IT operations, HR service delivery, customer service management, and security operations. And you can see some of the widgets and quick links kind of suggesting that. So resetting your password is a very main function around IT and IT service. We have system status, which essentially is around the security operations as well as IT operations. In simple terms, ServiceNow helps companies track, manage, and automate requests and processes. Some of the examples, as you can see here on the screen, an employee needs a laptop. They can essentially use this to request a laptop, a standing desk. If someone reports a software issue, essentially they can go to this quick link here, and this will essentially allow them to see knowledge articles. And this is the front end view of what an employee would essentially see. Now, let's talk about key concepts in ServiceNow. Before we jump into the interface, let's understand some important ServiceNow concepts. So an instance is basically your own ServiceNow environment. Think of it like your own copy of the platform where your organization manages its data. Now, generally, an organization would have more than one instance. They would generally have a dev, a test, and a production, and potentially a staging. And that just helps what we call the dev stack to ensure that anything you develop and release is tested and then tested on a stage instance that is a very close replica of production, and then essentially promoted to production. Now let's talk about applications. ServiceNow contains multiple applications like incident management, problem management, and change management. And they're essentially what you could call a product in the sense of different tables, processes, and functionalities all built out of the box for that particular product. So change would have its own workflow out of the box, problem would have its own workflow out of the box, and so would incident as well as major incident. Now we'll go into tables. So when we talk about incident management, these are kind of essentially built off tables, and tables are essentially similar to databases. So for example, the incident table will be a record of all the incidents created. That would then reference the user table, which has a reference of all the users. And then essentially requests is similar, table full of all the requests created within the organization. That essentially then reference the caller, person who raised the ticket, that essentially references user table. So when we talk about forms and lists, a form is used to view or edit a single record. So I'm just going to go right to the back end now, so you see here on my screen. And essentially, this is what we call a form. So there's an instant raise, and I can see this. And this is just to view or edit a single record. So here I can view it, I can edit it, change the description, add some comments. A list, essentially, if I go to incidents, view all incidents, essentially I can see the list of all incidents here. And this is essentially list view, and then the previous view we showed was the form view. Now, a few things you can do here on the list view, just to kind of showcase a few things. Some really nice stuff here is the group by function. So you can group by state right there on the list, and also you can filter out or even just show matching. Some of the things you could do on list views just to help kind of isolate some of the instances to then look at it and inform you if you need more information. But if you need more information on list view, you can also do what we call personalize. And you see a lot of personalizations in ServiceNow. There's a lot of things that you can do to personalize the experience for you. And I will showcase a few more in this video. But we can see here we have all the columns that are available for you based on your role. And essentially you could just add them by double clicking or just moving them over, and essentially it will add it to this view, and this only affects your view. Now developers can configure it so there's an out-of-box kind of list layout for each table, but essentially this is personalized for myself and me alone. Now let's go over the interface. So I've kind of briefly showed it, but I want to kind of go into it a lot more. So we'll just click on this to essentially go to the home page. And what we can see here, when you log in, you'll see several key sections. One key one's the navigation menu. Now I pinned this on the left just to make it visible for this video. Essentially, if I unpin it, this is essentially what it looks like here. So again, another preference that you can essentially use. And this is where you can search for modules like incidents or users. So it's kind of similar to what I showed when trying to essentially show the list view of the instance. I can search for instance. I could also search for users. And then if I scroll down, I can find users. Now you can see here there's a lot of items here, and essentially because I am an admin in this particular instance, so you will see a lot depending on your role. Essentially one of the most basic roles for IT service management would be ITIL. You would see a lot less, but there is still a lot happening on the application navigator. Okay, and then next to focus on is the content area. So this is where the main area displays lists, dashboards, or forms. So we talked about lists, we talked about forms. So if essentially we can see this form here, and then essentially we have dashboards or reports. So just want to show what that kind of looks like. So if I look at a dashboard, let's take a look at, see what platform analytics dashboards we could essentially showcase here. Let's see. Okay, so let's see if we click on the incident management dashboard. Essentially you can see here kind of a dashboard of what we call gauges and widgets that essentially allow us to see kind of incidents. You can essentially filter by. Now data's not great on a PDI, but essentially these are some of the out of the box dashboards that you can essentially use, and you can also configure your own. So essentially comes into this space here, what we call the content area. Now the filter navigator, you can quickly search by modules by typing keywords like incident requests, and this is essentially where you can essentially do this. So if I just type for incident, as you see here, it brings up a bunch of incidents, tasks, problems, anything that is essentially related to that keyword. So a very easy one to do. I think some really nice ways to use this essentially if you're just kind of trying to search for something and you grab this from some place in the comments or whatnot, you can essentially just easily search for that record and we'll try to find that particular record. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I've kind of shown some of the key areas and concepts, and I just want to quickly show how we can essentially create an incident. So I'm going to create one on the back end first just to showcase this. So if I click create new, and it just comes back to this form view. It's essentially filling out this form is how you would be able to create a record in the database, particularly in the incident database. So I'm just going to have to put a column in. So any of the fields that are essentially with a star and essentially red when they're not populated is essentially mandatory. So I will fill these in, and I will essentially fill an assignment group and just put anything for now. Essentially I'm going to submit this. Now what will happen, as you see, is it has created an incident record. Now essentially very similarly, employees could create incidents and requests through the portal. The way that essentially you could do this, if we go to the portal, okay, and let's see if I can find something broken. Oh, let's try and go back maybe, and let's just see if we can actually do it this way. So let's go through software, and over here we have our category, and I'm going to filter by request to see if there's any request items I can essentially submit. And I can see here, so essentially we can look to create a new email account. So essentially I fill this form, I look to order now, system admin, I can add in some comments, and I can essentially check out. And this is how a user would be able to submit a form. And essentially you could have a producer that essentially creates an incident and that goes to the right team, and this could all be mapped. Final thoughts. So that was a quick beginner overview of ServiceNow. Today we covered what is ServiceNow, why companies use it, key concepts, some interface overview, and also creating our first incident and form on the portal. So if you're planning to create an ITSM, IT support platform, learning ServiceNow is definitely a great skill. I hope this tutorial helped. Please don't forget to like the video, comment any questions, and subscribe for more tech tutorials. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.